Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for joining us. Well, the students return to the public university soon, and guess what? No tuition hike. But first, the scammers are ingenious, and they are hard at work. We're going to tell you how to protect yourself. We'll get to that and more after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
All right, some important topics to get to in Pennsylvania Newsmakers this week. And joining me is one of the top investigators when it comes to scams. One of he will talk and alert you to scams and what to do about them. He's Brian Roche. He's the anchor consumer investigator for WGAL-TV News 8. Brian, welcome back.
We're glad to be here.
I tell you what, when you sent me this list of scams, it was mind-boggling.
They're always evolving. They're always working on something. I often say to people that scams are like cars. They're usually the same make, but they keep changing the models, that's what's happening.
That's a good way to look at it. All right, let's get to it. Mail theft. You wouldn't think of the mail theft?
Yeah, it's become a real problem. Recently in York County in South Central PA, we had numerous physical break-ins of the blue collection mailboxes. It used to be when mail theft first started maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they would have some kind of device with a sticky substance on it that they'd stick down in the mailbox, you know, where we put the mail in. They'd put something down in there. Now they've gone beyond that. They're using pry bars, crowbars, tools, welding.
Physically opening
the entire box and damaging the lock and taking the mail that's in there. Anything they can get their hands on is valuable to them.
When you think about it, that's insane.
Well, you know, when you stop and think about what goes through the mail, it's something very valuable. Usually it's your checking information, you're paying a bill, or you're getting a bill, your name is on it, your address, your telephone number, your account number, you name it, it's in there. And businesses, of course, are also sending and receiving checks. Right. So the scammers are after this kind of information.
Wow.
And they have, you know, lowered the bar, if you will, instead of setting the bar higher. They've lowered the bar. They're not even subtle about this anymore. They're even going as far, and we haven't had this in the south central part of PA, but I know in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, they have physically accosted mail carriers and stolen their keys, the keys for the master key for the blue box, just so they can get in there.
Wow.
So this is a growing problem.
Okay. And I presume the mail folks and the police are aware of it, and they're doing what they can to protect
Absolutely.
the mail.
As a matter of fact, the Postal Service is in the process of switching the blue collection mailboxes. Actually, I should add, they're eliminating a lot of the blue collection mailboxes that you and I grew up with on the corner.
Sure.
They're reducing them tremendously, and they're replacing them with boxes that all have individual codes, electronic codes to get in them. So as I was explaining, the thieves are stealing the keys from the postal carriers, which is one master key. But that's not going to be the case anymore with the blue collection boxes. Each box will have its own different code. I haven't seen one of these boxes yet, but I would have to think they're going to be stronger and they're going to be tougher to get into.
All right, check washing, what's that about?
That's a result of the mail theft. The scammers and the thieves are trying to get into the mailboxes to get your checks. And what they do is they take chemicals, a lot of common household chemicals that you have, and for the sake of this program, we're not going to explain what those chemicals are, but the scammer can get your check, wash it, take these chemicals and delete how much you have written in there, or add a decimal point or two, and instead of you writing a check for $39 for someplace, all of a sudden you've written a check for $3,900.
Oh my God.
Your name is already on the check, so they're not going to erase that.
What do you do about it?
Well, you can be very choosy about where you drop your mail. You could take it to the post office, put it inside the post office, inside the drop box. Not convenient. You could start using electronic payments. I know people usually get very antsy about going online and making computer payments, but in the end, more often than not, they are safer than actually using a paper check. And then the other thing, the easiest thing you can do, use gel pens, G-E-L, gel pens, not ballpoint ink, because the ballpoint ink is what is so easily erased. So if you go out and use a gel pen, people often ask me at this point, should I use blue? Should I use black? The darker the ink is, the harder it is for them to erase it. So those are some of the measures you can take to protect yourself.
It's not all about the internet. It's not all about,
no.
I mean, it's now gotten physical. I mean, in the sense that.
You know, people though, Terry, I'm glad you brought that up. People have this fallacy that it's all about the internet. An amazing amount of fraud is perpetrated through pieces of paper, like a check. Like 30 to 35% of fraud out there is still done because a piece of paper is either stolen, misplaced, or just outright taken by somebody and altered.
All right, let's run to a break. When we come back, how about this? The Comcast rate scam.
Yeah.
We'll get to that and more after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
All right, I'm chatting with one of the leading consumer investigators. We're talking about a variety of scams. Of course, Brian Roche joins me. He's with WGAL News 8. All right, something called Comcast rate scam. Comcast refers to
Comcast, the cable company.
Cable company, go ahead.
Look, you know, one of the least favored bills that we all get in our house is what we pay for entertainment, and you know, what have you, the satellite services, Comcast, whatever. But Comcast, the name Comcast has been used by these scammers for quite a while now, and it continues to get worse. And the scam essentially is, you get a phone call saying, "Hey Terry, see you're a Comcast customer," and in some cases I've been told that they have a lot of the Comcast customers' information, but if you want to pay 6 months in advance right now of your bill, we can reduce your bill by 50%. And you know, that amount is usually several hundred, if not over $1,000. So who wouldn't want to pay a cable bill?
Enticing.
Exactly. You know, you want to cut your entertainment bill in half, so who wouldn't jump on that? And then they tell you that you should go out and get gift cards to send them a certain fee in advance. Pay your 6 months in advance. And you and I have talked about this. Gift cards are the scammer's #1 favorite tool these days, because as a consumer, once I put money on that gift card and give them the serial numbers on the back of the card, they have the money, and they just simply walk away with it. And Comcast has nothing to do with this. We've talked to Comcast repeatedly. There's nothing they can do to really stop it, because they're just using the Comcast name
right.
to try to entice people in there. And it's also been used with some of the other satellite services. But again, the heart of the matter is, you know, when we all get that entertainment bill every month, and many of us are now paying for the ancillary online services, Netflix, Hulu, what have you, you know, that pops your eyes out sometimes. So anything you can do to cut that bill in half, people are going to jump on that. Scammers are taking advantage of that.
All right, the IRS refund scam. Once you get something from the Internal Revenue Service, it gets your attention immediately.
Absolutely. There's no scarier 3 letters in this world than IRS. So if you filed your taxes back in the spring, you should be getting your refund right around now, or you should have had it by now. And so scammers are taking advantage of that. There's a particular email they're sending out. They're actually trying to hide it as a stimulus payment. There's no more stimulus payments. They're all over and done with. But they're trying to use the term stimulus payment and make it look like your refund is a little back due and you need to contact them. What they're after in this one, they're after personal information. But again, you hit the nail on the head. You say IRS and most people, they stiffen up and they get scared because...
Well, so how do they actually make money off of this?
Well, actually, this one, they're more after your personal information. They want to pretend they're with the IRS, and they're ultimately after your Social Security number. Social Security number is, you know, if I have your Social Security number, I own you. I mean, I could get a loan in your name, buy a car, get a mortgage, go get a credit card, and do all kind of damage. And you know what? You can't change that Social Security number. A lot of people call me and ask me, I've been a victim.
This is a great point. This is a great point.
It is. People call me and they say, I've been a victim of identity theft, Mr. Roche. How can I change my Social Security number? You can't. You don't change your Social Security number. It just does not happen. But that's what that IRS scam is ultimately after.
So protecting yourself.
Protect yourself, of course. You never give up your Social Security number to anyone unless you're absolutely sure. In fact, that's a great umbrella piece of advice, Terry. You never give up any information if you have even the slightest doubt. You know, most scam victims, when I talk to them, in the very beginning, their gut tells them something's wrong.
Yeah.
They have distrust right from the very beginning. And I tell more and more people, it's okay. Be skeptical. Be doubtful. If what you're being told is not going with your common sense.
Some requests that I get, they want the last 4 numbers of my Social Security.
That's one way of trying to get your Social Security. But most of the time, if they have the last 4, they already have the whole number, and they're just confirming.
They're confirming that you're giving them the right number.
If this is a business you have done business with in the past, they're confirming that it's really you.
This one expanding?
Look, when it comes to trying to get your Social Security number, it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. It is the ultimate key to your identity. It is the one single, unique identifying code that you have. There can be 50,000 Terry Madonnas in the world, but what separates you is not only your middle name, but also, in the end, the only thing that's unique to you, the only thing that's unique to me is my Social Security number. So scammers are always after that. And then they go and sell them on the dark web.
Yeah. Look, thanks for the update. You have an assignment. You come back in a couple of months and make sure you update us.
I'm always happy. Always happy to do that.
All right, coming up, the students return to the public universities. No tuition hike. We'll talk about that and other aspects of the public universities soon.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by
Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
As I indicated earlier, the students are soon going to return to the public universities with no tuition hike. And I'm talking about the state system universities. Joining me to talk about that and other aspects of the public universities is Dr. Ken Mash. He's the president of the Association of Pennsylvania State College and Universities, often referred to simply as APSCUF. Ken, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great, as always, to be on with you, Terry.
All right, well, let's talk about the fact that the students are returning. And am I right about this? For the 5th straight year, 5, no tuition hike.
Yeah, so first, it's always a great time of year for faculty at the start of the semester. One of the great things about working at universities is that it's like renewal every start of the fall when we have our students coming back. So it's exciting. And I know that my colleagues are really looking forward to it. To your other point, it's 5 years in a row. We are now really the best deal when it comes to attending universities in Pennsylvania. And I think, as we'll talk about, that's really possible because of the commitment the state is making to public higher education.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to also add quickly that decades ago I had Dr. Mash's position when I was on the faculty at Millersville University, but I've not have not been involved directly for decades. All right, we have to talk about something else that's important, and that is the funding situation for these public universities. Look, a huge percentage of somewhere in the neighborhood of 80,000 students are Pennsylvania residents. And the tuition and the funding are related and extremely important. Take it.
Yeah, so, we are the universities that really do serve the working class in Pennsylvania. We serve Pennsylvanians, and really our universities, without them, we would really be denying opportunities to students. And so we were very happy. I think the last time we were on, we were talking about how the governor had proposed 2%, but we were optimistic about the fact that there would be more. And I would say that thanks to the leadership, bipartisan leadership in the General Assembly, they understood the circumstances and they raised that to 6%. And that's really is necessary. And part of that understanding was that we weren't going to be raising tuition so that we could be competitive and affordable for our students. So I just really want to single out the fact that we had both Republicans and Democrats, in some instances, people doing things that were, not necessarily just for themselves or for their district, but doing it for the good of the entire Commonwealth. And no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add too that in addition to that 6%, we also received $65 million to help with debt that was occurring, that what we call legacy debt, which had built up over the years, largely being, building dormitories and things of that sort. But that debt was really putting the entire system at risk.
Now, historically, the state system universities, formerly colleges, had first-generation students. Is that still, to some extent, true?
Yes. So as I started here, we are the universities that represent the working class. So, it's continuing to be the case that we have large numbers of first-generation college students, meaning that they are the first ones in their family to be going to college. And so we serve that really crucial role in the Commonwealth.
Well, the other aspect that I think is very important is federal student aid, given the fact that a lot of the students come from families where there's not a lot of income. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want you to address the federal student aid situation, and we'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
I'm chatting with Ken Mash. He's the president of APSCUF. All right, federal student aid. A lot of the students at our universities come from families with moderate to low income. What's important about the federal student aid change?
Well, first, we should know that there's proposed changes in financial aid form, which has been extremely complicated. So on the federal level, there's a move towards making it simpler. But one of the things that just really is glaring is that Pennsylvania leaves, millions and millions of dollars on the table when it comes to students filling out the form even. So there's a bill that's working its way through the General Assembly that would, it would require that students fill out the FAFSA form to graduate. Now, having said that, there's a lot of ways to get around that because we all know there's special circumstances and we don't want to keep people from graduating.
Sure.
But the goal here is for students to understand what's available to them so that when they make choices, they have the full range and understand that the sticker price kind of for going to college doesn't tell you everything. You need to fill out that FAFSA form so you see how much it's actually going to cost you. So we're very encouraged. We're hopeful that the bill works its way through. We're happy with it, with the outs that it has. So we're looking forward to that happening soon.
Okay. There's a legislation that I know APSCUF supported called PA Promise. What's PA Promise and why is it important?
Yeah, so several states, and again, this is not about being Republican or being Democrat. We've seen it in multiple states that there is more of a move towards making the first 2 years of college free. And so the PA promise it had been introduced by Senator Hughes in the Senate and by Representative Harris in the House in the past. We had made some progress in moving that. Governor Wolf had a different version of something that he wanted to try. That didn't work out. So we're going to try and continue that push because there's a lot of concern about student debt, rightfully so, for people who have to pay back that money. But that's really, that's just treating the symptoms, but not really treating the disease. And the disease really is that college is just too expensive. And so by giving our students, like many other states do that, head start, we would improve our workforce, increase our tax base, make it more attractive for the Commonwealth, to make the Commonwealth more attractive for businesses to come here. So we're just really encouraged about wanting to move forward with that. And we're hoping that, in the fall, we start to see some traction on that.
Yeah. Should these scholarships go to somebody in majors where there's a high demand, or should it be just generally available?
Well, there's been talk about, and the system has proposed in the past that we get some money, the system gets some money to give for scholarships for high demand. But that's really on the low end of things, right? Because we don't know. Nobody can predict what's going to be in the future, what's going to be the high demand things. And markets, even when there is a high demand, they can get flooded. And then suddenly, those go away and it's another area. The more important strategy for us to understand is that it's just too expensive overall to go to college at this point. And our neighboring states are starting to do this. New York State has already done some form of this. New Jersey's talking about doing it. And the more our border states start doing that, the more we are going to have students leave the Commonwealth to go to college outside of the state. And that doesn't bode well for the Commonwealth overall in the future.
Yeah. Generally speaking, in about 20 seconds, you optimistic about the future of the state system?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic because I know my colleagues, both faculty and coaches. I know how excited they are. I know how much they commit themselves to the students. We know our students who are eager to learn, so very excited.
Thanks for the update. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, stay well.